When we grew up, we kind of looked at life as this linear, this old premise. And so we remember that life is a project. Okay. But even if we look at life in a linear way, we're thinking like, okay, so we start from 0 to maybe 12. And what is that? Adolescence, right? And we're supposed to learn certain things, or we believe that we are supposed to have certain types of experiences. There's this expectation of what our 0 to 12 should be like, right? And then after we graduate from 12, then we go into teens. And so from between like 13 to 18, and then we realize 18 isn't real, maybe 21-ish. We're supposed to be, you know, teens, and we're supposed to have certain breakthroughs and certain milestones and certain things that we're supposed to accomplish, right? So we have this entire set of expectations. And remember, what did we say about expectations? The missing of expectations is the source of all disappointment in life. Okay. So when we have certain expectations, but then we confront neutral circumstances of the human experience that don't necessarily meet them, we're thinking we did something wrong. We're thinking like we are not functioning correctly, but really it's this premise, it's this perspective of how we're viewing life. So we see, 0 to 12, then we got 13 to 21, then, 22, really honestly to 65. That's the big chunk. And then by 65, we should be ready to retire. So we're saying that in premise, we want a century worth of experiences, right? And in premise, the old view of looking at life as a linear path with a start and with a finish would give us the expectation that we should be hitting certain milestones along the way, right? And then we get here and we've lived a life and it's perfect. But I'm going to tell you what, we experience so many circumstances that contradict this view that makes it not work. It makes it not make any sense, right? There's cognitive dissonance because guess what? I don't know about you, but my adolescence did not hit some of these milestones. Okay. Like it was a whole cluster of a situation. And so then that cluster feeds into this cluster. And then we got some more clusters, right? And so then, we start to wonder like, what am I doing wrong? And it's really not what you're doing wrong. It's really that this math ain't mathing. This actually doesn't make any sense at all. Life is not a linear, it's not a straight line, okay? It's just not. Life is a project. And so if we really understand what a project is, we understand that it's a series of milestones that we experience as we attempt to gain mastery within the various cycles and spheres of our lives. Over and over again, we're like recycling, initiate, plan, execute, close, initiate, plan, execute, close. Across all of these various areas, it becomes way more dynamic and way more complicated, but that also makes it make way more sense. And it removes the cognitive dissonance that comes when we're thinking that life is a straight line or that there's a destination of success that we're somehow supposed to be getting to that we never find. Miranda, tell me about your perspective of life being a straight line and maybe some of the expectations that perspective made you believe that you realize, ooh, I don't think that works.
I guess the biggest one would be that I'm 40 and I haven't had kids yet. For the longest,
Mhm.
towards the end of my 30s, I'm stressing myself out. And I'm like, let me eat right, get my body right, trick myself into thinking I'm still 30 and not stress myself out about that not being a thing yet because it does not have to be.
I think for me, always like the professional is what I like go to, where like I don't necessarily love the field of work I'm in right now, even though, but it's that like fear of well, what if not this? And so it's like the starting over, the like, or even just like continuing other pursuits that I've started in the past and put down. So yeah, the I should have achieved this by this point, or I can't start over because I've you know, like you're so deep down this path.
So we have these expectations, right? When we look at life as a straight line, that it doesn't make sense, really, because based on that straight line, by 40, that means you should have had kids already, right? Or by, 40, you should have achieved a certain definition of success already. And ultimately, the straight line theory says that you can't start over. It means you missed the mark. It means it's too late, and it means why try? It means that you have to continue on the path that you're on if it does not bring you joy. And you have to purport yourself to look like you're doing something else when really it's killing you inside. Can you see how viewing life as a straight or linear path really makes no sense? It's actually insane. It's actually kind of like backwards, and it produces displeasure. It produces uncomfortable results, right? So this is what I'm proposing. The new premise for how we need to be looking at life as a project. If a single project has all of these phases, we might be tempted to make this be a straight line just like the other one, right? We'd say, okay, sure. 0 to 12 is initiate. 13 to 18 is when we should be planning for our success as adults. We should be going to high school, getting our degrees, and deciding what college we want to go to, right? 20 to 65 is we're executing. We are doing adulting. And we are going to be successful. We're going to hit these milestones. We're going to have babies. We're going to make money. We're going to do these things, right? And then we're going to close. We're going to retire at 65. We're going to travel the world and die in our sleep. The end. Life is a project. And so if life is a project and it is a series of milestones, so let's look at this. Series of milestones. Many, 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 many experiences along the way. Then we can start to consider that, hey, wait a minute. From this point to this milestone, whatever that milestone may be, whether it is a spiritual milestone, a physiological milestone, a mental milestone, a relational milestone, whatever. Because remember, we're many phases. We're not just one thing. We are very complex, dynamic beings, okay? So if it's a series of milestones, and from this point to this milestone is its own project, guess what? Now we've got a sphere where there's some initiating, some planning, some executing, and some closing and learning just within that one milestone. Just right there. And guess what? If there's multiple phases of our lives, there's even more of those just in this one milestone. And so we become so dynamic. If I were to really draw this thing out, it would probably look like a cell. You know what I'm saying? Like inside of our body, because our life is organic, it is cyclic. If each experience that moves us toward a milestone is also an experience of initiating, planning, executing, closing, right? That we repeat all over again, then how do we more effectively create, appreciate, and learn from each of our various life experiences without making it mean that we've missed a mark, that we can't start over, that we are late, right? Like, how do we do that more effectively? And my proposal is that we accept that life is not a straight line, but rather a project. And we train our brain. When we accept that life is not a straight line and it is a project, then we train to treat each experience with the mastery and the mindset of a project manager, with the mastery and the mindset of an entrepreneur. We do that because we know that confident decision-making requires responsibility. It requires autonomy, right? And so we're going to do this basically by applying the manifest model to each and every experience that comes into our awareness. Like that becomes the training. That becomes the practice. It is no longer looking at this beginning and this end and saying, oh, this is where we are on our roadmap of life, and all of this was a bust and all of that, it actually blows the entire linear path up. It allows us to drop smack dab into wherever we are, present moment. It allows us to widen our scope and our perspective of our life as multiple spinning cycles of experience that we get to manifest within. And we take the simple practice of identifying, making decisions, and engaging the decision so that we can test and learn from it and reapply it. So instead of we can't start over, it's literally everything is a cycle. I always have an opportunity to start. I always have an opportunity to execute and close and start again. Like, and we start to lean into the cycle of that, right? And so then we can accept that decision making is less of an event and more of a way of life. It's more of a way to move through life. And we become more receptive to the mindsets that are necessary to navigate change because we know that it's coming always, and to navigate it with confidence. And so this is what I want to call self-mastery mindsets. We're shifting from viewing life as a linear straight line to viewing life as a project. And even as a project, we understand that it inherently is multiple projects, multiple cycles, multiple experiences of identifying, deciding, engaging, repeat, and literally showing up in each moment so that we can better create with intention, we can better appreciate, and we can better learn from every single moment that has layered our unique human experience.
I think for me, it like this mindset shift takes a lot of pressure off and like kind of really instills a sense of freedom and like of being able to take every moment and like be in the presence. Cause I think when you drew it out, it's like it feels like life is just a house of cards. And if you don't do things in a certain order, it's just all gonna fall around us. And there's just no starting over versus like at any moment we can just re-engage, and thinking about everything as like a project gives us more permission to fail, to experiment, to do it like, and and then just start over if it doesn't work, because yeah, you can't be expected to just like do everything perfectly, which then feeds into, and of course we're going to fail, which then means like we get to a certain point in our lives we haven't done the things that are supposed to precede it, and somehow we feel like failures when that's absolutely not true.
It gives us more permission to fail and to experiment. The core of experiment is experience. All life is an experiment. We are literally having an experiment with this human body. Like, our wills, our magic was so intentional. It was so powerful that we formulated ourselves in a human form. And we said, we got this over here. I want to be able to, experience this in a human mode. I want to see what this is about. So it's literally all testing and tasting and seeing what we want. I love that, Regina.
Yes to all of that. And yes to all of the things. What I took away, I guess, about what you said, and I guess it's more connotation of certain words because you hear cycle, but having the thought process of a positive cycle and creating a cycle of things that help you as opposed to it being like this dreadful thing, oh, it's a cycle. No, you want to, and finding a good one that works and continuing to do that as opposed to making it this one big deal, but all these things that you can be present for, that's absolutely, absolutely.